Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tech It to the Max. I'm your host for today, Adam, and joining me here in the studio is Ben Wright, our senior technician over at IT Desk. Welcome, Ben.
Hello.
So, before we get started into this podcast, are you all right just to provide a bit of a summary of what it is that you do in your day-to-day activity?
Yeah. So I'm the information security manager at IT Desk. So my day to day activities include pretty much anything related to cybersecurity. Be checking phishing emails, making sure computers are up to date, making sure our ISO 27001 documents up to date. Yeah.
So basically, you're a very big, important guy in the business structure.
Yeah, very big, very busy,
Yeah,
I would say.
absolutely. Make sure that you're keeping us safe, which
Yeah.
we all appreciate very much. I'll be honest, I'm actually really excited for this podcast episode because for those of you who don't know and you haven't read the title, this episode is going to be all about digital security in 2025. And as a novice myself, I get embarrassed when I ask people any questions relating to cybersecurity. But now I feel like all of that is justified because we're talking about it for this podcast. So yeah, I'm really excited to get hit the ground running and ask a seasoned professional all of the most important questions. I'm going to ask you a really open-ended question here. But where do you think we are in terms of digital security in 2025?
Um, for digital security, I do think it's become more of an issue that companies should concentrate on. It's definitely a, it's a pillar that should be holding up a company now for cybersecurity. Um, because it's where attackers are going now. They're coming after your digital assets and after the money that you have. They're there to um, disrupt the company. So that's what they're going to do.
Absolutely. And I noticed, I mean, I was loading up my personal computer for the first time in months the other day, and something that I got absolutely bombarded with when I tried to do a security run using my service provider was just how many other packages that there are available that you can opt in to pay in for.
Yeah.
Would you say that antivirus software has evolved to a point now where it's a bit too overwhelming, or do you think it's a necessity for personal individuals and businesses to try and utilize every single package and aspect available that you can get in these service offerings?
Um, for antivirus in particular, I would. It depends on the antivirus. Obviously, not every not every module or every extension that the antivirus comes with is needed for what you're doing, but you should be using, you should be checking and doing assessing what you do use,
Yeah.
and then obviously applying that. Obviously, that's what we do at IT Desk. We don't want to oversell a product to a customer that's not going to be any benefit to them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you there. And do you think that antivirus software is enough for businesses in this day and age, or do you think that it's the foundation that you should have without saying, but you just need to go way above and beyond that?
Um, it's not enough just to have antivirus software, but every endpoint. So what I mean by an endpoint is laptop, smartphone now, desktops should have antivirus installed, but it's not enough just for your company. We need, I'd say that what companies need now is user training is most prevalent.
Yeah,
User training and awareness is what they should be concentrating on as a top priority for cybersecurity.
absolutely. And on user training and its importance within businesses, over the past few years in particular, remote working is something that's been on the rise and has taken over a lot of the workforce in society. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on working from home and the impact that it can have on a business's security, where you think there should be more measures implemented, etc.
Yeah, so employees they they're wanting to work from home now more, a lot since COVID. So a lot more employees are wanting that benefit to be able to work from home. So protecting that is a priority. Obviously, one of the things that I would suggest for remote workers is having a VPN.
Yes, that's
Um,
actually one of the things that I've seen implemented into these antivirus packages
yeah,
in modern day. Something that is an underappreciated gem, in my opinion, for its ability to protect you, and especially when going online on the internet.
yeah. Yeah, on your point there for antiviruses offering it, what to be careful of. A VPN is an encrypted tunnel that goes from your device to the to a server somewhere.
Right.
So and then that server makes requests on your behalf.
Yeah.
So it could be like for one you might see for like NordVPN, you could go to a server in America,
Yeah.
and then that server's making requests on your behalf. So it looks like your traffic's coming from America.
Yeah.
What to be careful with that though is obviously, do you know who owns that server
Yeah.
on the other side? Because they can read all your traffic and what's going through there.
Yeah.
So to be careful with third-party VPNs such as those,
Yeah.
you could still be putting your device and your data at risk. Obviously, what we suggest is creating a VPN tunnel to your work network, to your office network.
Yes.
So obviously, that's something that's in your office, something you know, and something you can manage.
Of course. Yeah. It very much sounds like, from what you're saying, that the main security thing to consider is cloud servers, as opposed to using on servers that you have on site.
Yeah, like yeah, with any tool, there's a right way and a wrong way to use it.
Yeah.
You could still be putting your company at risk if you think you're doing right. You could be putting it potentially in more danger than you started off with.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, well, something else that has seen a particular rise, like remote working in the past few years, is, we had to say it, artificial intelligence. And I feel like I would be doing an injustice to this podcast if I didn't bring up artificial intelligence and where you, as a qualified professional, can see that having an impact on digital security in 2025.
Um,
I think there's a lot to say, so it's easy for
yeah,
you to become overwhelmed with thoughts, especially when it comes to outweighing the pros and the cons there.
the biggest one in terms of security that artificial intelligence will bring, certainly for the large language models that have come out, like your chatbots and your chat agents, is users inputting confidential data into those
Yes,
inputs.
yes, absolutely. Something that I'm sure that you were going to mention now before I rudely interrupted you was just how different chatbots have their own process in place, some of which collect data, and
Yes.
some of them don't collect data, and it's erased after each chat that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just want to elaborate more on that.
So, yeah, chatbots. The majority of them, especially ones that are free, will can guarantee they will be training and using the data that you input into them
Yeah,
to train on their models. Obviously, the risk of that is if them chatbots are trained on your data, they could be saying that data out to other users
yeah,
when they respond to them, and obviously that's exfiltration of your data. That's a leak of confidential data that you don't want to happen. So with chatbots, you always got to be careful and review on how they use your data and how that data is protected. And also with GDPR still alive and still being very prevalent today. Where is that data being stored? Where are the chatbots being stored?
that's just it. I think there's a fine line between getting that publicity through chatbots, From a marketing perspective in particular, I've seen a lot of people raving about the fact that, oh, we're getting a lot of backlinks to and site traffic to our website because of mentions through AI software like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But also the counter argument to that, as you've mentioned, is that's opportunity for misinformation to spread. You're not in charge of what's happening when these chatbots collect your data. So it's just something that every business has got to consider, and they've got to weigh up the pros and cons there. So another potential threat in terms of what AI can have on digital security, which I thought about, was captures. Which, for those of you who are unaware, captures are you a robot tests, stuff that you would normally see upon trying to sign up for a service or a website. Would you say that artificial intelligence can have an impact on types of malware threats such as brute force attacks?
Yes. So back to your example for captures. Um, they can be used to for the ones for images, for example. That like how many squares have got a bus in. Um, AI AI now can pretty much do that itself. It's really good at identifying objects and patterns within an image, so it can get past that. Um, so there will be more attempts and more bypasses that it will get past on captures. And in terms of what was it your example, malware?
Yeah, like brute force attacks.
Yeah. In terms of brute forcing attacks, at the moment, what it can do, it will be able to help malicious actors maybe write some code on brute forcing code. People that really don't know how to code, it can provide that code to them, and then they can become and brute force more easily. So what it's doing, it's widening, um, it's lowering the skill level needed
Yeah,
for attacks to happen.
absolutely. It's crazy to think about, really. I never thought we'd see the day, well, especially this early on, I never thought we'd see when, for all intents and purposes, robots are able to pass the "Are you a robot?" test. Not even. I'm trying to think how long they've been around for now. Captures, but over 10 years, 15 years, something along that
Yeah,
line. So yeah, that is crazy to think of. But on the other hand, something that I've thought about was more of the positive side of AI and its impact on cybersecurity.
yeah.
And what specifically I was thinking about was its ability to enhance machine learning for identifying
Mm.
threats. Is that something that you can see as having an impact on your role in tech and digital security as an industry?
Yeah, so pretty much all security tools such as your intrusion prevention system that monitors the inbound and outbound traffic from your network router in the office to file analysis on antivirus platforms to spam detection on email filtering platforms all implement some form of machine learning now
Yeah,
um, to help detect and respond quickly to attacks and block them. And I think that's only just going to increase this year. Um, it's more and more the way I see it's going to go. More and more that AI will be doing the actions, and people will be monitoring and reviewing the actions that AI has done. So AI will be acting first, and
yeah.
then us will be acting and rating that reaction as a secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a model that a lot of businesses are trying to take on nowadays, is putting AI as a first protocol
Yeah,
before that human intervention,
yeah,
which sounds like we're getting to the point now where AI is going to be able to do an amazing job at covering those areas. And not that people should be less qualified, but it would definitely seem like it's able to filter out issues, like less issues that humans are able to solve more efficiently. Now that we have got AI, which is always nice to hear. Something else that I wanted to talk about was multi-factor authentication.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that has been, for better or worse, integrated into more and more services and websites over the past few years, 5 years, or whatever. Um, how impactful and significant do you think multi-factor authentication is for security? I know that a lot of people have stuff to say about it. Maybe some people find it a hindrance and an annoyance when trying to access different areas. But I'm interested to see what a qualified professional like yourself has to say on it.
Um, all accounts should have multi-factor authentication now. That is the new standard. If you've not got multi-factor authentication on your account, you are below standard. The way I see it is there was backlash for in the 70s. I think in the United States when seatbelts were mandated for vehicles.
Oh, okay.
Um, and a lot of people didn't. A lot of people campaigned saying it was a safety concern having a seatbelt in because what if you're in a crash or you drive into a river
Yes.
and you're locked in your car, but it's now second nature for what you do when you get in the car. You put in your
Wow,
seatbelt.
that's very interesting. You liken it to seatbelts
Yeah,
in the 1970s, but now that you've mentioned it, I can really see that as an equivalent. It almost definitely will be one of those things where we might complain about now for convenience and
yeah,
taking that extra few seconds out of your day
yeah,
to try and input that. But what's it cost when it comes to safety? It's a
yeah,
small price to pay.
yeah. Phishing emails are still where 99% of cyber attacks start from.
Yeah,
So it's a no brainer to have your email account secured with an additional security code. The exponential increase it gives to your account.
yeah.
It's so it's a win-win really.
So while we're still on the topic of multi-factor authentication, I was interested if you think that there are good, or you can foresee any changes or enhancements coming into play in the near future.
Yeah, the one I think that will happen, and I think we're seeing technology companies, force it onto its customers is the move away from SMS messages being a form of multi-factor authentication.
Oh, okay.
Um, just because um, the technology that's behind SMS messages is unencrypted. Obviously, the data that you send on there is um, is not encrypted in any way. It's only encrypted, obviously, on your phone if you've got a smartphone, but in transit going through um, the mobile carriers systems and infrastructure. That's not encrypted, and there's a form of attack called SIM jacking, and that's where an attacker could pretend to be you, phone up your mobile carrier and ask them to put your number on their SIM, and it's as
Right.
easy as that. So if they manage to do that, they would get your 2FA codes if you've got it set up to SMS messages. What tech companies are forcing across now is for your 2FA codes to go to an app.
Oh, okay.
So you might see a pop up code
Yes.
um, asking you to put in 2 digits, or you might see for Facebook, for example, all
Yes.
their MFA is done through WhatsApp. And obviously, that's not over SMS. That's done through their WhatsApp service,
Yes, of
which
course.
they say is end to end encrypted.
Right.
Um, so I think, well, in general, I think SMS is just going to become an old technology.
Yes.
Obviously, with iMessage and everything that Apple puts into their messaging systems, I think traditional calling and SMS is just going to be relegated just to emergency services.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow, that's a bit of an interesting tangent. That's
yeah.
that's got me thinking. But
I,
wow,
I
learned something
think
new.
just because it's the technology it were built on like from the 90s, and it's not really developed much since then.
Right.
And obviously, you've had all these new technologies come up behind it, and they've had the room to improve.
Yeah.
Whereas the technology doesn't give for SMS doesn't give much room for it to improve.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's just going to become redundant in the near
Wow.
future.
Wow, that is interesting to think about. It's crazy. Um, I I thought about something when you were talking about people ringing up service providers pretending to be somebody that they're not. It reminded me of an article that you sent along to me not too long ago regarding Microsoft Teams or video conferencing
Yeah.
software, and I think the term was vishing, if I'm correct,
Yes.
virtual phishing.
Yeah.
If you're able to just talk about that, because I thought that was really interesting, the article that you shared, and I think it would be interesting for the viewers to find out a bit more about that.
Yeah. So vishing, video phishing,
Yes.
which was that one. Um, this was a case of in this instance, it was a Teams call
Yes.
where somebody had called up, obviously through Teams, with just like with video call, like you normally would, like you have on Zoom or on Skype, and pretended to be the bank through that way, and that's how they got in. So instead of your traditional phone call, or I think they're called robocalls, as some people call them, this was a Teams call where they managed to pretend to be the bank and access personal information of that user.
Wow, it's scary to think that people are utilizing recent software that people have been using on a more regular basis, and they're finding new ways to try and scam people out.
Yeah.
Wow. So, moving on to the last area of this podcast, I just wanted to speak more generally about cybersecurity and businesses and misconceptions. Do you think that there are any misconceptions in particular that a lot of companies tend to fall into the trap into?
I think one that's still prevalent, a misconception, is that smaller companies think that what have we got that a cyber criminal would want to have,
Yeah,
um, and they think that cyber criminals only go for the big organizations. But the trend that we're seeing now, that that's not the case.
yeah,
Cyber criminals are going after a lot more smaller companies
yeah,
because they recognize that they probably don't have a greater security than a bigger organization.
yeah,
So if they could get, they would put the same amount of effort in to one big organization into that same amount of effort could be translated to 10 smaller organizations.
yeah.
And if two of them, by probability, if two of them get compromised, that's a win for them.
It's interesting. I liken this more to on street crime. When I look at statistics, I'm pretty sure that in terms of statistics such as mugging crimes,
Yeah.
a lot of the higher targets or the most common targets that you tend to see aren't actually wealthier individuals on the street.
No.
It's those more perceived lower class individuals who look less wealthy that are
Yeah.
more often seen as the targets, just because of similarly the points that you had already made.
Yeah.
That they're seen as easier targets. They don't have the security measures in place like a wealthy, for example, a wealthier individual might have more automated security systems like CCTV
Yeah.
and a Ring doorbell, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas a less wealthier individual might not have that, and it's a similar thing to what you said. Smaller enterprises and businesses might think along the lines of, "Oh, I don't need to worry. I'm not going to be a target." When in reality, because they have that mindset, that's creating uh, that's creating the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the sad reality of it is some of these smaller organizations may not recover from a cyber attack if it's a big one, whereas obviously some of the big organizations could probably through insurance could probably pay it off and come back from it.
Well, I'm sure there's some sort of statistic where it's like 60% of limited companies fail within the first 12 months of startup, something along those lines. And if you're also adding on top the potential of getting hit by a massive cyber attack like you've just suggested,
Yeah.
then you're almost guaranteed to get to an all-time low. And it's really, really hard to crawl out of that situation that you'll find yourself in.
Yeah. I've just thought of something going on from ransomware and cyber attacks.
Yes.
Um, Obviously, currently in UK law, government agencies can't can't pay for a ransomware attack. Under law, they're not allowed to pay taxpayers' money to recover data from a ransomware attack.
Oh, I see.
They are looking at expanding that to all public sector places such as like the NHS. Um,
And education.
and education, yeah. So yeah, if a school gets ransomware attacked, it's looking like it'll be under law that they won't be able to pay that ransomware attack. And I suspect for in the not too distant future that would expand to private organisations as well.
Oh, I see. Wow. Wow.
Um, yeah, for good or for bad, because obviously some people say there's the what they call a double barrel ransomware attack going
Right.
about. So what that is the attacker would encrypt your files so you can't access them, ask for a ransomware payment to get your files back. But what they also would do on the dark web, they would um, sell your files that they've got as well, sell them on. So you may be getting your files back, but they may have already been sold. So um, double extortion attack is what it's called, and that's what they're doing. So what the governments are seeing from that is even if you are paying money,
Yeah.
you're still not really fully recovering from a cyber attack. So you may as well not pay it at all. Um, and I think it harkens back to what some politicians said, that obviously you shouldn't never pay a ransom, or obviously all it does is just feed them more.
Yeah. No. Exactly. You kill it. You got to kill off the source
Yeah.
by not feeding into the demands. So moving away from misconceptions, in terms of more preventative measures, where do you stand on staff training in businesses when it comes to preventing digital security, and how important would you say it is for businesses nowadays?
Um, Very important
Yeah,
now. Businesses should be doing security awareness and cybersecurity training and phishing simulations to see how their staff would react, and see if they would give up any credentials if it was a real attack. Um, we we recommend doing it um, little and often. So obviously, don't overload the user all at once with an hour's worth of content that they must read and train through. Keep it bite-sized, 3-minute chunks, but do it once every month.
yeah.
That's more better for retention of that information.
I completely agree with you there. I think it would feed more into the muscle memory if you're
Yeah,
not bombarding them, but at the same time you're giving it at semi-regular intervals,
yeah.
so you're keeping them on the toes at the same time. So I think that's a good measure to put in place. Absolutely. What software or services do you think businesses should take on board when it comes to enhancing their protection in digital security?
Um, One would be have a training platform, so a platform that could monitor and send out them phishing emails, and respond, and also something that could send out training for the users. Another one that we've had good success with is a um, a intrusion detection and prevention system for the perimeter security of your network. One we use is Meraki, since that one is backed by Cisco cybersecurity engineers, and is updated daily with the latest threats on there. So it's not a static list that could be set a year ago, and then obviously if a year later that list is out of date. What we know with the Cisco Meraki intrusion prevention system is it's always kept up to date, and we're always in line and protected against the latest threats that could be coming from external sources.
So if you were to give a top three cybersecurity attacks that businesses should be aware of now,
Yeah.
what would those three be?
Number one is phishing, still prevalent. Um, Number two, I would say probably malicious applications. So such as an application that's on a website that you don't know, you've not tested, you've never used, your company doesn't use it, but you need it. You download it and it has malware on there that infects your computer. It could be something as benign as a PDF reader. You after a PDF reader, first result that comes up, you get that one. Um, so I think to combat against that, companies should have a list of authorized software that their employees are allowed to use, and then obviously a way to enforce that, maybe through Intune, like we do here. And then I'd say number three, cyber attack would probably be vulnerabilities on the device. So obviously, or not updating your device, or having a device that's no
Always
longer,
make sure you're
yeah,
updating your software patches.
yeah. So or a device that's no longer updated is obviously one of the worst ones because um, you're no longer getting any security updates from the vendor.
Absolutely.
Um, and obviously that's one of the simplest things you can do. Is just to update your device to protect your system. Um, there's people out there that are finding these vulnerabilities, um, most of the time for a good cause to make the operating system and your computer more securely. So yeah, just update your device.
Yeah, remember, folks, always take the 5 minutes every X amount of time to update your operating system because it'll help you out in the long run.
Another one is I don't think many people do it. Is it's always good once a week just to restart your phone as well.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's not one that I've thought of before. What's the logic behind that?
Just because obviously just like your computer or laptop, some of the fixes that are deployed um, via these updates do need a restart of the services that run on them. So restarting your phone can clear them, and also modern phones and modern laptops and desktops have a lot of built-in security checks when they first start up.
Right.
Um, so it allows your phone to run through them security checks,
It
and
it is always crazy, and I sometimes forget this how every day that goes by, for the most part, I never turn my phone off completely. For you're just putting it on sleep
no,
mode. I
yeah,
mean, it's like if you were using your PC and you never turned it off, you always just put it on sleep mode and
yeah,
then reawakened it. That can't be good for it.
no,
And so you know what? Now that you say it, I do fully back
yeah,
the idea of making sure that you restart your phone every X amount of time because it probably would do it a lot of good.
yeah. It for performance as well. It'll probably speed up your phone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the final thing that I wanted to ask you is obviously, we all hope that this never happens, but if for whatever reason a business did find themselves attacked
Yeah.
by somebody with malicious intent, what would you say the best protocol would be to mitigate that issue?
Um. So if they do find they're attacked, it would be report it as soon as possible
Yeah,
to your IT provider or your security manager, um, to whoever company or person that's in your business that manages with incidents.
Yeah, I think it's a shame that a lot of people feel scared to go forward
Yeah,
when they might have encountered some sort of digital security issue. They might be worried about the consequences that they might face, but they've just got to remember that it could get so much worse if you don't report it. So you've just got to nip
yeah,
it in the butt and get on it as soon as possible. I think is the best thing to do, which I'm sure you would agree with.
yeah.
So this has been another episode of Tech It to the Max. I'd like to thank our guest Ben for joining us today. Thank you for giving us all of the best insights into digital security, Ben.
No problem.
And for those of you who have tuned in, I will see you in the next video.